story, or a recognizable attribute in a character that conveys information to the audience. A trope becomes a cliché when it's overused. Sadly, some of these tropes often perpetuate offensive stereotypes. Every now and then in Hollywoodland, a character that's identified as feminist will magically make his way through the production process and appear on our television screens. Unfortunately, this is almost never good. What the Hollywood machine turns out is a distorted and warped version of feminism, which bears little resemblance to actual feminist movements. In a desperate quest to distance themselves, their plots, and their characters from anything that could in any way be mistakenly mistaken for feminism, Hollywood writers rely on one of the most deceptive and disgusting tropes ever to be forged in the fires of Mount Doom. That trope is called the straw feminist. In television and movies, the straw feminist works by deliberately creating an exaggerated character of a feminist, which writers then fill with a bunch of oversimplifications, misrepresentations, and stereotypes to try to make it easy to discredit or delegitimize feminism. The goal is to make feminists and our movements look completely ridiculous, over the top, and unnecessary. In terms of media representation, one of the most disturbing examples of the straw feminist can be found in the third season of Veronica Mars. Sadly, the Veronica Mars writing team turned the last season into a train wreck, partially by introducing a group of straw feminists as the villains in the series. Characters like these serve to undermine and discredit feminist movements, but they also serve to separate female leads who are smart and strong and witty, in this case Veronica, from any association with feminism. The straw feminist character is part of a fictional post-feminist world that only exists in Hollywood. The trope is a tool that's used to promote the fallacy that everyone is already equal. What's exceptionally frustrating is these characters often bring up legitimate feminist concerns about women's rights and women's equality, but those concerns are quickly undermined by the writers making the characters seem over the top, crazy, and extremist. For example, the straw feminist appears in Married with Children as Marcy Darcy, the irritating and pompous neighbor. In this case, the straw feminist is coded as the castrating wife who emasculates and dominates her docile, stupid husband. We see this trope repeated in Rugrats with Phil and Lil's mother, who Wikipedia describes as quite the jock and women's liber. And we can also recognize her as a straw feminist because of the giant woman symbol on her sweater. Much like Marcy, she's framed as the castrating wife who barks orders at her submissive husband. In 2001's Illegally Blonde, the writers threw in a straw feminist for cheap laughs who believes that the word semester is an evil conspiracy against women.
Take the word semester, okay? This is a perfect example of this school's discriminatory preference of semen to ovaries. That's why I'm petitioning to have next term be referred to as the winter ovester.
Another problematic example comes from the Powerpuff Girls episode Equal Fights in the third season. The girls encounter a female villain named Femme Fatale, who we can immediately see is a straw feminist because she has the oh so terrifying woman symbol on her mask, her clothes, and even as her weapon. The episode begins with the traditional pan around Townsville, showing us that gender inequality is not a problem.
A city where everyone gets their fair turn.
Even boys and girls on the playground get along.
Your turn, Jenny. Think fast. Oops. Very funny, Joey. You're gonna get it.
But this harmonious balance is deviously disrupted by Femme Fatale and her connivingly deceptive women's rights rhetoric. Curiously though, Femme Fatale brings up some pretty valid points about the lack of female faces on American Money, or the lack of female superheroes in pop culture.
Surely you've noticed. Female superheroes aren't nearly as revered as male superheroes.
Sure they are. They're Supergirl, Batgirl.
They're so lame. Merely extensions of their male counterparts.
The girls are influenced by Femme Fatale's malicious rhetoric to see benign, routine, everyday things as a conspiracy against women and against them personally. The writers of the Powerpuff Girls have carefully created a fantasy world without gender oppression, so that they can have the girls start seeing oppression where none exists.
We saw what you did, Joey Finkelmeyer. What'd I do? Shut up! Don't play dumb with us.
I finally caught up on all the housework, and all that's left is your room. If you could take care of that, please. I'll just do it later.
Why don't you get some big, strong man to save your precious city? Or, better yet, why don't you stop making women do your dirty work and do it yourself?
The problem is, all of these things that the Powerpuff Girls are complaining about are actually happening. Girls are getting bullied on schoolyards, and women are overwhelmingly responsible for household duties. Women are being institutionally oppressed all the time in nearly every facet of our lives. Once again, this trope is used to separate the Powerpuff Girls from any notion that they could in any way possibly be feminist characters. Because, you know, awesome, funny, world-saving, independent young women, but, you know, not feminist. The straw feminist is taken to a whole new level in adult animation shows such as South Park or Family Guy. In the episode I Am Peter, Hear Me Roar, the Family Guy writers took a stab at feminist attorney Gloria Allred. Allred is known for taking on high-profile cases defending women who have been assaulted or harassed. In this attack, Family Guy writers created a character coincidentally named Gloria Ironbox, who brainwashes Peter into thinking he is a woman after he is accused of sexual harassment. The emasculation and feminization of Peter and his sudden transformation into a feminist is played for laughs.
I can't respect men. Men are the reason our world is in such lousy shape. If men were as caring as women, we wouldn't have crime or violence.
Because, you know, nothing is worse in a patriarchal society than being a woman. Except maybe being a feminist. In these fictional narratives, institutional oppression and wide-scale sexism just doesn't exist. It's a carefully constructed world where feminism is no longer needed. Even the comic book world delves into this trope with Y the Last Man. When all the men on Earth die except for one, there is an extremist, homicidal group called Daughters of the Amazons. The violent vigilante group is founded on the disdain and hatred of men, and anyone who mourns the death of men, even though there aren't any more men. Let's get back to Veronica Mars. There's a 9-episode story arc in the 3rd season about a series of rapes that occur on the university campus. A group of straw feminists on campus hold demonstrations, volunteer with the Ride Home Safe campus program to escort young women home, and demand that the university institute an official sexual code of conduct. All of these are logical, rational, and important steps to creating safer college campuses. However, the writers quickly dismiss these characters as irrational, stubborn, pig-headed man-haters, and it serves to fulfill the tired old stereotype about angry and militant women of color. The writers of Veronica Mars take the straw feminists to an obscene level by actually having them fake a rape in order to blame the fraternity. Women lying about sexual assault is a grossly overused myth. Women generally don't put themselves through the social shame of admitting assault for petty personal revenge. In just a handful of episodes, the creators of Veronica Mars undermined the work that thousands of students are doing globally on their campuses to end violence against women. While we see the straw feminist over and over again in television and movies, it's also unfortunately deployed on a regular basis by American talk shows and news pundits. Mainstream religious and conservative news media often attack women with deliberate misrepresentations and extreme exaggerations of what feminism is. This false impression has been infused into the mainstream by popular talk show hosts such as Michael Savage, Glenn Beck, and Bill O'Reilly. You may have heard the slur feminazi, popularized by Rush Limbaugh, a term used to discredit and demonize any woman fighting for social equality.
The feminists, the feminazis, have been working for years to this end. Advance women by diminishing men.
Yeah. The straw feminist is set up to perpetuate and advance the myth that feminism is no longer needed, that we've arrived at gender equality, and anyone who disagrees is quickly demeaned and portrayed as an extremist. This trope represents a backlash against feminism and groups supporting women's rights. As we make more gains towards equality, the backlash gets stronger. It's an old yet effective tactic, but clearly it's working because I often hear young women saying, "I believe in the equal rights of women, but I'm not a feminist." This sentiment is a direct result of the straw feminist trope because women want to distance themselves from the extreme and false representations they're seeing in TV, movies, and talk shows. We need to proudly claim the title and fight back against the distorted and demeaning representations in the media and in real life. And if y'all really do believe in the equality of women, then we need to continue this long legacy of feminism and fight for it. And Hollywood, get over your fear of strong, smart, talented women and stop contributing to the backlash by writing absurd and ridiculous straw feminist characters. Now I'll leave you with Polly Bergen saying something pretty awesome on the otherwise unremarkable show Commander-in-Chief.
Look, just because it matters to Mom doesn't mean it matters to me. I mean, I'm no feminist.
So you don't believe that women should have rights equal to those of men?
Oh, well, of course I do. It's just...
Well, then, Might I suggest, my dear, that you look up the definition of feminist?
Feminists don't have a sense of humor. Feminists just want to be alone.